What up, family? So, sorry about that. I just got done with the gym, so I'm trying to eat, but I definitely wanted to come to you guys about what's happening in LA. And before we start, if I start jumbling my words, my braces just got tightened today, so I'm adjusting. So, first, I think it's very important to know because I was watching Funky Dineva yesterday, and he was saying, black people don't unite, don't do anything, and let them come together on their own first, and then we can make this thing of, I guess, where we can join into this fight because normally. Historically, black people have always done what they needed to do when it came to providing, I guess, refuge, but also leadership, being the line leader, being the people that come to the front that and are actually making things happen. And then you're kind of like pooped on at the end when people come to the country from different countries and they don't want to be black or they don't want to be brown and they want to assimilate whiteness. As a person that lives in Mexico, that just so happens to be American, um, I can say that someone said something to me today that I think should resonate with most of us as African American or Black people or Brown people. Most of the people, this is just from what my conversation I had with a couple friends, and it made so much sense. The people that are moving to the States are the people that are like white America, that are the Trumpers. And it dawned on me because I always tell people all the time, like, oh man, when I'm here in Mexico, the people are so nice. I never have an issue. Nothing racial, maybe classism, but I don't really deal with the classism either. But all things that I get to see, but I always have a good time. I've never been met with like, oh, you're black. And it dawned on me that the people that are actually moving to the States, are the people that are the Waxicans or the people that want to assimilate whiteness. And I won't say they're getting what they deserve because I don't think anybody deserves this. I don't think kids deserve to be, taken out of school, parents deported, things like that. And I won't say that it's all, but the people that voted for Trump, I won't say that they didn't know what they were doing. I think they knew what they were doing. I just think that it's always been a situation of I'm not like them. I'm a Latino, but I'm not that type of Latino, you know? And I think it's necessary what's actually happening. So I think what's actually taking place, they need to see because I always tell people this all the time. And I had a situation when I went to visit a friend in Austin and I met a Brazilian guy damn near my color. And I remember he was just like, I'm not black. I was like, then what the hell are you? Like, I know that you're Brazilian, but if you're not black, then what are you? And I remember him saying, you know, I'm Brazilian. And I don't think that certain things should be based off race. And I was like, but you do know in this country you're black. Like, in this country, you're black. And he said, we had an incident that we left his house. It was a couple of us, and he had like a multi-million dollar house, or maybe $1 million house, I think. And I remember that the lady, when we walked out, there was a white lady, and the white lady actually asked him, "Oh, are you like a cleaner? Like, do you have like a car? Like, I remember looking at him, and I kind of laughed at it because I was like, she would never come to me like that. She knows I'm black. Okay. So she's not gonna come to me like that. She gonna know. You better go on about your business, stop playing with me. See, but she know you like other. Like, is he Latino? He Mexican? What is he? But Colombian? I said she knew I wasn't. So she ain't asked me. And she asked him, was he a cleaner? He kind of was like appalled by it. And I was like, in this country, there is no such thing as like, like Brazilian, Colombian, Japanese, Chinese, like it's not that, it's like, oh, you speak Spanish? Okay, you Mexican, bye. And that's just what America is just like. So now that I've seen it through this lens, I was like, oh, there's nothing less to expect from the people because you would, I think a naturally intelligent person, even if it was just for money, you would already understand that there's a high percentage of you coming to this country and they don't like people like you. So I would think that you think that you're the exception. So what we're seeing is more so that, like, like the people that are saying, well, there were Latinos that voted. I said, but there was Latinos that voted for Kamala as well. I think it was like a 50-50 split or 40-30. I mean, I think it was like was it 40% Latino men? No, I think it was 52% Latino men, 48 something women. And I think the thing about that is, I think what we need to understand is that's just what it is. Now, I say all of this stuff not to defend what's happening in LA. I think that there was a peaceful protest. I think they are peaceful. I don't. I've talked to many of my friends here that have never had a fight. Like that are Latino or Mexican, and they've never had a fight. And I'm like, I squab up, I squab up. And I think for me, it was very interesting hearing how docile, not to be funny, but how docile they are as people. And I think oftentimes we sit back and we don't want to like look at it like that. We don't want to look at it like this docile type of thing. And I'm like, they are docile people. They're not, even in this picture, they're just wanting to represent. And at the end of the day, I corrected one of my friends. They were like, yeah, we built America. And I was like, no, no, no. We built America. You maintained it. So I think I think we should stand up and I think we should go against Trump. And I'm even now here in Mexico City trying to organize a rally or a march of some sort that we can get people together and we can show solidarity with the people that are actually going through what they're going through. I don't think anybody should be deported, especially for a country that's already been stolen. So I think that's very weird to kind of have a country that was stolen and then you're trying to make rules and snatching babies. And I think it's one of those things that we need to start looking at, that there's a common enemy amongst us all. And I'm not a person that likes to point the finger at different people and say this is what it is, but there's a common enemy. And what happened to black people in slavery, that was by one person. What's happening to Mexicanos or Latinos, that's one group of people that are doing that. And I remember someone saying something that was very like telling. And me living in Spain, even as an American now living in Mexico, America is the only country in the world that it's kind of like frowned upon to speak another language. And I speak Spanish fluently, but it's frowned upon to speak another language in America, where people kind of look at you weird, or they're like, oh, what's happening? Why do you speak another language? And for me, it's always going to be that. I have never received any hate in Mexico. I've never received anything but love in Mexico. So I can only imagine, even as a kid growing up in St. Louis, all the Latinos and the Mexicanos that I grew up around, these were nice people. They didn't cause problems. So I think it's absolutely disgusting what's happening in the States when it comes to them. Um, and let's be honest, it's more of their country than it is of our country, if we're being honest. Like they were there first. What Los Angeles is not Los Angeles, it's Los Angeles. That's what it is. Every street in Los Angeles is Spanish. So I think it's very like, and it's just, I think they're just attacking the Latino community because the Latino community is, their birth rate is a little higher. I know they're higher than us. Yeah, I think their birth rate is higher than ours. But I think it's kind of like it's time for us to stand together. So I'm definitely going to organize some type of march, some type of protest here in the capital. CDMX, just to show solidarity. I think we're all in this together. I think we are more alike than we are different, and that's always going to be my stance on it. I have never felt, I remember telling someone that I have seen so many different things here in Mexico that I never thought that I would see. And I remember telling people, like, I have gone to quinceañeras, I have been to people's weddings, never thinking for a minute that I would ever be able to experience some of the things that I experienced. And I remember telling people, like, Mexico City, it's a place where Zocalo drums, you can just hear it, like, pulse your heart, where abuelitas call me mijo and fed me chilaquiles like I was their, like their grandson. And Mexico has always been a place where I had to stop translating my blackness, my soul, who I was. I never had to question that in Mexico. And I think that's kind of what makes me want to stand up for them. And I know a lot of people are upset, and I have to tell people, like, you have to understand, it took us a long time to get to the point of understanding the system, understanding what's happening. Yes, it's as easy as voting. It is easy as voting, but I think, maybe Latinos and Mexicanos, they have to talk amongst their groups, and they have to say, hey, maybe we did want to assimilate whiteness. Maybe we did believe the white man over people that look like us, or brown people, or black people. And maybe we need to talk about why we have a problem in our own communities with morenos. Like, why do we have that problem? And I think it's this is a time where, after this, there's no excuses. But I think now you've seen they pulled the mask off. He's shown you guys that, um, you'll never be like them. You'll never be part of their whiteness or whatever their American dream is. And it's okay for you guys to take back who you are. Be proud to be Mexicanos. Be proud to be Latinos, and overall, just stick with that. And I think we'll get to a better place. I think we'll get to a better place, but I don't think division, like I saw in some people's videos, I don't think division is ever going to be the answer. I think we can come together and we could fight this, and we can do much bigger things together than we ever can do apart. And, like, again, maybe it's because my view is because I've lived in different countries, and now I'm living in Mexico City. I will always have respect for the Latino community, the Mexican community. I will always have love for them, because they've taken me in and they've treated me really good. And yes, I speak Spanish, so maybe my experience is different, but they have given me nothing but, respect and love. So I just wanted to touch bases with that, because I think I'm going to start covering some of these topics, because it's some of the voices that I hear out here. I can't say that I trust their voices, but I think it's from a diluted place. I think it's from a one-sided view, and not saying that these people have never traveled, but I think I bring a lot to the table when it comes to that. I've lived in Spain, I've lived in Mexico, I've lived in England. I've been to a lot of these places where people are coming from, and I think it's different. Hi, may I ask, as Black Americans, why should we need to take on other people's fight? I wouldn't say that it's taking on other people's fight. There was a quote that someone says, sometimes you're just the one. And I know it's not about like an honorable type of thing. And I think some people think it's just so honorable. But when I think about things, and I get it, some people need to grow a spine. I'm not going to say that that's not a thing. But I think we have the willpower, we have the fight. Not that we need to always be strong. I don't want to ever, confuse that. But we have that. Like, we have the fight, and not saying that this is who they're scared of. But if they were afraid of anybody, they'd be afraid of Black people. When I'm talking about the Trumpers and things like that, because they know, like, at this current moment, we were so divided. Like, sorry about this. I just have to drink this. but we were so divided. But I think like we're the ones, and like yeah, I get it that we shouldn't always have to be the strong ones. We shouldn't always have to be the ones standing up. Um, but I think that's who we are. I think that's just we are those people. Not that I think we should always be those people, but I think we do give people strength, and we do make the world go round. And yeah, people may not like us because we're black, but I also think that I think we're strong. We're a strong group of people, and yes, some things are common sense. I'm not ever going to take that away from people. Common sense is common sense. Voting means voting, and that's just what it is. But I definitely think that we have the capability of making things much better. So I hope that answered the question. But yeah, I'm not a person that constantly wants this to be a pissing contest of like who's doing what, why did we do this. I think historically, at the end of all of this, there will be, it's just no other group has done that for us. I just think we need to save the energy for our own battles. But I think that's the thing. I think if you're not worried about ICE, right? I think if you're not worried about ICE right now because it's only impacting, Latinos and Mexicanos or people from South America, because they're not targeting white. Let's just be honest; they're not targeting white people, from Europe. I think there's a matter of time, and I think that two things can be right. I think we can definitely save our energy, but I think a lot of things are test runs. We're not number two in the states like we used to be. It's white people, then it's Latinos, and then it's us. So I think, and I get it. Why are we trying to fight for people that voted against themselves? And I think it's just a different situation when you think about it. I think if you look at the logistics of how we have to vote and how let's just be honest, most people don't know exactly what they're voting. They just vote Democrat or Republican. So a lot of people don't understand the nuance of how these things work and when we control the House and if we control the Senate and things like that. I don't think people understand that. And I think that's very, very difficult to explain to people, not making excuses for them, but it's very difficult to explain to people that are just coming to the country. Or let's just say, my mom was an immigrant, she didn't vote, but I'm first generation. Who's going to teach me? Like, and many of us have a lot of, we have multiple generations in the country, and we can see through the cloak. We can see through the bullshit of what this administration is even saying and doing, even threatening Gavin Newsom right now. And I'm a person. I'll be honest. I'm not too fond of white people. And I've lived in different countries. I'm not too fond of people that can't identify with themselves. So I even approach people that are white with caution. And I tell them, like, I approach you with caution because historically speaking, this is just who you are. I think it takes people a long time to get to that. And I think that, unlike, well, some of us, we can do it too. Some black people can assimilate whiteness if they're mixed or if they're light skinned and things like that. We have our own issues within our community, but we openly talk about colorism. We openly talk about things like that, where most of us don't have that privilege of assimilating or being in that space where we can like pretend to be that. So I think for them, it's going to be a journey to kind of get to that point where it's like, oh shit, no matter if I'm Latina with blonde hair, blue eyes, I'm still Latina at the end of the day. Like when I meet, let's just say Blue, I meet Blue and Blue introduces you to a family, and I understand you're Black, Blue. Um, and then they understand, oh, you're Latina. I met your mom. You're Latina. I didn't know that. Then the cloak comes off. So I think it's up to them to kind of get to that point where they can deal with that internalized racism within themselves. And I'm saying within their own communities as well, but that's a conversation that they need to have with themselves. But I don't think that we should just sit back and let them hang out to dry, and let them just dog these people out. Like I saw some kids going to court, 4 or 5 years old, representing themselves, and I get it. We fought, and people shit on us, But I do think it comes a time where we have to we just got to do it, like, and I know it's tiring to be the one, and but I think it's inhumane to sit back and to change who we naturally are as people. um yeah, black people's homes were firebombed, and what was it? Uh, Black Wall Street, Tulsa. They've done a lot of things to us, but I think it's also not taught, and I think, and yeah, I can make excuses for people and say that, well, maybe you should do the research and go out and figure out exactly what's happening in these locations, or what happened prior to you coming. I mean, at the end of the day, everything that we did in the civil rights movement and things like that is the reason that immigrants are even allowed in the country. But I don't think people understand that. I don't think a lot of black people understand that. Also, Mexico was one of the first countries to ban slavery. Once we got here, we were considered free, and they stuck to their word about that. So I don't think it's ever been a thing about them not liking us as black people. I think it's been a thing that's been forced upon the world, to be honest. It's a lot of people that ask me questions and I have to correct them, like, what are you talking about? Whether it's, oh, we're aggressive or we're this. And I'm like, we're nothing like that. What are you, but then it's like people get to talk to us and they get to hear us. And it's not about trying to save face or trying to get approval from people. But I think at the end of the day, the more we get out and the more and it's not about trying to prove white people wrong and, make us the good guys. But I think that's just naturally who we are. All right. Oh, see, but I think I don't know if you came in, if you were here the whole time. I do believe that there is a group of. I do think that there is a group of like Latino people that move to the states that are strictly like that. Because I think it would take you to be a very, how do I say it? I guess you would have to be ignorant in a way to not think that the people that live there think like that. That you would have to think that they think like that, because so I'm not making excuses for them. So I do think that you're right about that. So it is a difficult situation to that's why I said it dawned on me today for the first time that anybody that would, outside of money, because we understand that the economy can give you a lot more money there to take care of your families. But it didn't dawn on me until like till yesterday or today. Earlier today, I had a conversation, and it was like the people that would actually move to America, whether they're Brazilian, Colombian, Mexican, Puerto Rican, whatever, that would move to the states. You have to be in some way a Trumper, or some way that you view um, whiteness and blackness in that land. So I do agree with you, Blue, about that. So if that's what happened, yeah, I think it's very difficult for people to want to fight for that. And it's even difficult now for me to defend it a little bit, because it's like, shit, most of the people that I do think about, if they are living there, they would have to, in some way, assimilate that whiteness and hold up that objective of this is what they're trying to do. But I think two things can be right. I think that they can also be people that didn't like black people, and there can also be people there that didn't believe that this would happen to them. And I'm not saying go to war for them. I'm just saying, like, do what we can. I'm not saying we should all march, but just so show some solidarity in a way that they know that they're just not alone in this situation. And I need to Google that, actually. You said they were firebombed by a group of Mexicans to force black people to move. Okay, let me just see. Firebombed in LA by Mexicans. Latino gang members firebombed black residents to drive. Oh, in Boyle Heights. Okay, okay, I see it. In South LA. Yeah, you're right. Seven Latino gang members, but I think that's a different thing. I don't know if we. I mean, not saying that it's that's. I'm like making excuses, but we know how gangs are in LA as well. So, is this more of a gang thing, or is this more of a black and white, black and like Mexican thing? Like I think we would know, and I'm sure that the gangs themselves are against Bloods and Crips, and this gang is Mexican and things like that. But I think that's a one-off. I'm just saying that if we have more stories like this, which we shouldn't want more stories like this, I think that's when it gets to murky waters. But I still think that we're better together than we are apart. So thank you for that, Blue. Thanks a lot. So I just wanted to touch bases with that, guys. Get that out the way. So I will be coming and talking about different stuff. 'Cause I think it's time to have a new voice in this arena, to talk about different things and just give a different opinion from a different lens, a different lens. So thank you again, Blue, for your commentary, and I will see you, beautiful people, later. Nos vemos. There was never solidarity. You're right.